Okay, so this is problem 11.3.43, and you can't read it very well there, but I'll read it to you. It says, it has been determined that weather conditions would cause emission cloud movement in the critical direction only 4% of the time. It's talking about a rocket launch. Find the probability for the following event. Assume that probabilities for a particular launch in no way depend on the probabilities for other launches. Okay, and what we're trying to find, any 7 launches will result in at least one cloud movement in the critical direction. So since you can't really see this, I'm going to write out the important pieces. It's been determined that weather conditions can cause emission cloud movement in the critical direction only 4% of the time. So 4% of the time there is movement. This is cloud movement in the critical direction. I think the preamble to this problem, which isn't printed here, is that we're talking about a rocket launch and there's emissions that come out of, the rockets, and if the clouds move in a particular way, it's going to take those emissions towards established, housing, suburbs and things like that. So 4% of the time it's going to move in the critical direction, which then they don't tell us this in the problem, but that means that 96% of the time it doesn't move in the critical direction. Okay, and then it says, this is the question they want to know. We want to find the probability for any 7 launches. And so the probability that any 7 launches will result in at least one cloud movement in the critical direction. Okay, so let's think about this. The wording here, when it says at least one cloud movement, think about what that means. If you're going to have at least one, that means that you could have 1, or you could have 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6, or 7. And so instead of trying to calculate that directly, it's going to be easier in this problem if we just calculate the situation that has no, where you have 7 launches and none of them resulting in a cloud movement, and subtract that from the total. So just to give you an equation here, the total here in terms of probability would be equal to, the probability that you have 0 cloud movements. So any 7 launches will result in at least one cloud movement. It would be equal to the probability of 0 plus the probability of 1 cloud movement, probability of 2, probability of 3, and so on, all the way up to 7 cloud movements. Excuse me. Okay. And so what I was saying is that when they say at least one cloud movement, they're actually talking about all of this. And so instead of trying to calculate that directly, it's going to be a lot easier if we just take the total and subtract the one situation that we aren't looking for. And then you can see easily with this equation, if I just subtracted this to the other side, I would have this piece equaling that piece right there. Okay, so it'll give me the same answer if I just calculate this. Okay, so when we're talking probabilities, the total is always equivalent to 1. Because the probability of something happening and something not happening is always going to equal 1. Oh, that's my phone. And I'm going to let it go because I don't want to stop this video. So anyways, we'll just ignore it. So what I was saying was that the probability that something's going to happen and something's not going to happen has to equal 1, because it's either going to happen or not happen. Okay, so really what we need to do is we need to figure out this probability right here. So the probability of having zero of these launches resulting in cloud movement would be the product of the fact that 96% of the time it doesn't result in movement in the critical direction, and we have that 7 times over. So if I took 0.96 times 0.96 7 times, that would actually give me the probability 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would actually give me the probability that I'm going to have 0 of the launches resulting in, emission cloud movement in the critical direction. Okay, so if you just do this on your calculator, you end up with 1 minus, it's like a 0.75. If they asked us to round to 2 decimal places, so if I just round to 2 decimal places, it's that. And so you end up here with 0.25 as your answer. Okay, so 25% chance that you'll actually have 7 launches and no cloud movement in the critical direction, which then is the same thing as 7 launches, or excuse me, 25% chance that you're going to have at least 1 cloud movement in the critical direction. Yeah. 75% chance of this other piece. Okay, but this is our answer right here. All right, that's it on this problem.